What caused your ex's feelings to fade? I'm going to share with you the most common 5 that can cause their feelings to fade and what you can do about it. The first likely cause of their feelings fading is that attraction fell. And in this case, it's not physical attraction, because usually if you are in a relationship with this person, then physical attraction was there because it is in many ways the foot in the door. When you have nothing else to go on, when you don't know the person, then their looks, the way that they appear physically, are what allow you to start to enter that stage where you develop emotional attraction, if it's there. And so unless there's been a big physical change, like tremendous weight gain or something like that, then it's unlikely that physical attraction has fallen. Though if there has been a big change, sometimes that change happens and the person holds on as long as they feel that they can, and then they just don't want to anymore. And that's a difficult situation. But it's unusual that that would be the case. Usually it's emotional attraction that falls, and it's because of many different things. And I'm going to talk about those in the other causes that I mentioned. But let me just tell you that at this point, it's actually very important to do things that are emotionally attractive. And a lot of times people think that that means contacting the ex, telling them how you feel, telling them how you've changed, or telling them what you're going to do differently. And it's actually not. One of the strongest things that you could do that could help you the most as far as rebuilding some emotional attraction is to show that you can stay away and that you could be lost, because we're dealing in many ways with a value change in the way that they view your attractiveness. And when emotional attraction falls, it affects the way that they look at you from a physical standpoint as well. So it affects everything. Everything goes down when emotional attraction falls. And talk is cheap, especially if they have been in the relationship with you for a while and they've been having this conversation with themselves. They are aware of what's going on. They feel it fading. And a lot of times they'll think, I need to break up with them. And then they'll think, I'll just wait another weekend. I'll just wait another date. We'll have another conversation. We'll go do some things that we used to do, and maybe I'll feel differently. So they went through a lot of these things. So when they get to the point of wanting to break up, they're really sure that they want to do that. And that doesn't mean that they're sure that they want to break up with you, which can be a little confusing because they still have doubts. But they are sure enough that they are going to tell you they want to break up. And they'll tell themselves it's for the best. They'll remind themselves, you felt this way, you wanted out of this. And so you can't just tell them, hey, I've changed, and emotional attraction will instantly come back. And your ex is not going to come back until at least a large portion of that emotional attraction returns for them. And so let's talk about some things you can do to make that happen. But first, I'm going to mention some other causes, and I will mention some things to do along the way. The second thing that can cause your ex's feelings to fade is that the relationship was stagnant. They felt like it was going nowhere. And a lot of times this can happen in long distance relationships, for one, where it's like we're in these separate parts of the state or the country or the world, and we don't see each other very often, if at all. Some people I've coached and some people who get coaching calls from the coaches on my staff have never met in person. Those relationships are very vulnerable to this fading concept when you don't have all 3 areas of intimacy, mind, body, and spirit. When you don't have that with someone, and you can't if you are on the other side of the world. And so if you're in a long distance relationship, or if you have been broken up with and you were in a long distance relationship, a lot of times those issues are because you two were so far away. It can make the relationship feel like it has no future. You're not part of their daily life, and so they don't feel that strong intimacy with you about seeing you at the end of the day and telling you about their day. They may do it on the phone, but over time, it's not enough. It's not the same as being face to face. Another thing that can make a relationship go stagnant is if the other person doesn't feel that you two are headed to anywhere different. And what I mean by that is that the relationship itself seems to have hit a peak. So for example, if your ex was wanting to get married and it didn't seem like the relationship was moving toward that, it just seemed like you two were in this dating relationship and that the relationship was not growing to a place or to a point, and it felt like it had reached its peak, that can make the relationship feel like it's stagnant, because it's important to have those thoughts about the future. What will be better? What will be different in the future for us? Where are we going? What is this relationship going to end up being? For a lot of people, they want to get married, to have some sort of stronger commitment and maybe a family. And if that doesn't happen after a certain period of time, then they begin to feel that the relationship is stagnant, it's doomed, and it's not going anywhere. And so that can be something that causes emotional attraction to fall and their feelings to fade. Now keep in mind, you can't just call and say, hey, you know what, let's get married. Let's get back together and let's get married, since that's probably what you wanted, because the damage has been done. The emotional attraction has fallen because of the time that has passed with this not happening, other conversations you've had, or them thinking it's not going to happen. And so you can't just tell them some new information and change what they feel in terms of attraction, in terms of emotional attraction. It has to process with them. They have to experience life with this new idea and be thinking about it. And lots of times you've already told them that. At the breakup, you probably told them, I'm changing this. This is going to change. What about this? If you didn't, I still do not encourage you to reach out and tell your ex, because you need to show some emotional attractiveness by staying away, by being strong, by letting them feel some loss. We need them to be back in contact with you and talking to you before it's going to matter as much. And so it's not necessarily that they need to hear that there will be a future, because since emotional attraction has fallen, that has become the problem. And so the little details, it does not move them quickly to change the way that they feel. So keep that in mind, and just know that there will be a time, hopefully, when you can talk about these things with your ex, but you have to start at the starting line, which is to rebuild some of that attraction so that at least they're coming towards you, talking to you, and they're around you. Because especially if you've already told them that you'll change some of these things, they already know. And if they don't know, it will take attraction to increase again before it actually matters to them again. And oftentimes they will be the one to reach out, to be talking to you, and to bring some of that up. So remember, timing is important. You don't just reach out and tell them you've changed. They have to actually be motivated to be back together with you before it actually matters to them. And that's confusing and frustrating to a lot of people, but that's actually how it is. Before I get to number 3, get more information on my emergency breakup kit. I'll link to it in the description below. It's a powerful guide to help you get your ex back. That's the emergency breakup kit at myexbackcoach.com, and I'll link to it in the description below. Number 3 is often what your ex means when they say that feelings have faded, and that is that limerence fell. And I have a video about limerence, and I'll add that in the description below as well, or you can just go to my channel and look for a video on limerence. Limerence. Limerence can be described as the feeling of being madly in love. Oftentimes it happens with a new relationship. It doesn't always happen with a new relationship, in that not every new relationship has limerence, but it's the most common time when someone feels it. And it's borderline obsession. It is sky-high emotions and fireworks and passions. You can't keep your hands off each other. You can't keep your eyes off each other. You want to be with each other every second of the day. It's very intense. And it's where this other person, just looking at their face, causes increases in dopamine, in oxytocin, and serotonin changes. We can put people into functional MRI machines and show them pictures of their limerent object, the person they are madly in love with, and watch as their brain changes in terms of electrical fires. It's amazing. But it always fades. I'll say that again. It always fades. It will never be what it was in the beginning. That doesn't mean it can't be great, but it will change. In many ways, limerence is an immature form of love. It's still a form of love. It's still fun. It's still a wonderful experience, and it can be a blessing and a wonderful thing for your relationship. But if people don't understand that it will fade, and from the ashes of limerence come mature love, which is based on commitment, companionship, and intimacy. If people don't understand that, and they feel that change to where it's not based solely on the fireworks and the emotions, but it's based more on commitment and companionship and intimacy, if they don't understand that, they will describe that as feelings having faded. If that's the case, I repeat again that you must do things that are attractive instead of just saying something trying to change the situation. If they still feel that emotional low, that lower attraction to you than they used to have, then nothing that you could say would change their heart, would change the way that they feel, because feelings will take time to change. And so the best thing you can do is show attractiveness by staying away. And what's interesting is that when they do start coming towards you a little bit and you are being casual but polite, but you're not just jumping back into their arms, you're not saying, oh, I've missed you so much, I'm so glad you called, we've got to be together forever this time or something like that, that you are actually seeming a little bit distant, polite, kind, but distant, reserved. When they start seeing that, it can actually trigger some of those feelings. And when you get the relationship back with that person, that's when you two need to have a conversation about limerence. You need to tell them what's going on. And the two of you need to communicate on some of these things, because there are things you can do to keep some of those highs of limerence, and they can be very valuable. Having new experiences together, like going on vacation. It doesn't have to be crazy travel. It can just be local, but doing things that are different together that the two of you have not done before will actually cause an increase in intimacy similar to limerence. And if you need to change physically, if you've let yourself go, improvement in that area can boost that as well. But again, it has to be after emotional attraction has had some sort of comeback. So keep in mind that it could be limerence falling and that they just don't know how to handle it and they just assume that the relationship's over. It doesn't have to be, but it is a little bit of a difficult road if they are limerence addicts and they are just bouncing from one person to another until the feelings fade. Number 4 is exterior pressure. This can be from friends or family. And this happens a lot of times with people who are younger, maybe late teens, early or mid 20s, when a parent does not like the other person and they say lots of negatives about them, or your friends don't like the other person and they warn this person about you in some ways. Maybe they think that you are mistreating their friend or mistreating their family member. And if you are, obviously that's bad and you should probably just leave this video. But if you're not and they are saying you are, it can still be a problem because your ex probably started to see a future that was confusing. They didn't know where the two of you were going, what role you played in their life, because they didn't know if there was a future there simply because they have these people in their life and they can't handle the constant negatives. And so they probably felt like eventually the relationship would dissolve just because of that negativity. And these people can be very influential. It's like a drumbeat over and over telling this person these negatives about you. And so that's a difficult issue to take care of. And a lot of times it will involve or it will need maturity from your ex. They will need to be able to see past some of this. And again, being emotionally attractive is the place that you start. You stay away. That's what's emotionally attractive. Not begging and pleading and contacting and asking them if their feelings have changed, or acting as though you are basically tone deaf to what they've said and that you don't understand that they do not want to be in a relationship with you. Being emotional, all those kind of things right now are big negatives. Your best chance is to give them the breakup, back away, let them miss you, let them see that you were gone from their life and see how they respond to it, because they haven't experienced that yet. They have to experience the breakup. And if they start to think that maybe they made a mistake and they start interacting with you and you do, as I've said earlier, you show that there is some reserve on your side, that you are not sure, then it can cause them to move a little bit faster and stronger towards you. And that's when you can start to overcome some of these things. You can't just go to them and say, your friends were wrong, your family's wrong, because at that point, since feelings have faded, they actually care more about what their friends and family thinks than you do. And so your words are going to be empty and meaningless, or at least have less meaning than their friends and family. So keep that in mind. It all starts with rebuilding some of that emotional attraction, which you can do by staying away. And I have lots of videos on that, and this video is not particularly about that, but just know that it all starts with that before you actually have any leverage to be able to change some of these things. Before I get to number 5, take a quick second and subscribe to this channel so you can be notified when I have more videos like this. Number 5, there have been too many negative experiences. And what those can be is, it can be rejection. It can be where there were angry fights and yelling and there were hurt feelings. And it happened more than once. It happened maybe a lot. Maybe they saw displays of selfishness from you, where you thought that you were higher than them, where you treated them as though they were secondary, where you thought of yourself and not of them. Selfishness, even if physical attraction is there, selfishness is the dagger to the heart of emotional attraction. And they can walk away even looking at you from a physical standpoint differently because, like I said, when emotional attraction falls, it affects everything else. And they will look at you differently in all areas, even though the root cause was emotional attraction falling. So if you have all those negatives in your past with this person, If you have apologized, which a lot of times that happens at the breakup, people will apologize because they know what's going on. But if you haven't, this is when you would reach out and you would send a clean slate message where you say what you did wrong and you ask for forgiveness. And you don't make this too long. I talk about this more in the emergency breakup kit. It would only be a paragraph or two. Some people send 4 pages and I'll tell them this will probably not even be read. But if you go on and on like that, it actually seems very emotionally weak and they do not have the motivation to want to read it at that time because their emotional attraction is so low. But you do need to apologize and then you need to back off because they know you want to be with them and they know that you're sorry. Let them deal with that and see that you can stay away to raise your attraction some. It won't raise it sky high, but it can raise it enough to where they want to reach out and talk to you and just kind of see if these changes are possible and if things could work out. That's where you want to get them. You don't have to get them 100% there. You just need a little bit, and then you can do the rest with my help and the emergency breakup kit or a coach on my staff. We're here to help you do that. And what you need to do is watch this next video that's called What You Can Do to Change Your Ex's Mind. And that's in the end screen here. Click on that and watch that video so you can actually change your ex's mind about some of these things. And it starts, like I said, with staying away and rebuilding some of that attraction. That gives you a little bit of traction. But then you need to know where to go. And that's what this next video will show you. And it's here in the end screen. So click that and I'll see you there.